Okay, let's dive right into this explainer and explore some of the most profound, fiercely suppressed ancient texts ever discovered. We're looking at a collection of spiritual blueprints that were literally buried in the sands of time. Why? Because they held a secret so incredibly powerful, it threatened the entire power structure of the ancient world. But what's really fascinating here isn't just the history, it's how perfectly these ancient words diagnose the anxiety, the burnout, and that deep search for purpose we are all struggling with today. Take the Gospel of Thomas, for example. It's packed with the direct sayings of Jesus, but it was hidden away in clay jars in the Egyptian desert. It was deliberately concealed from the world for a staggering 1,600 years before finally being discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945. I mean, try to imagine the sheer willpower required to keep a secret of this magnitude buried for over 16 centuries. That isn't just an accident, that's the calculated erasure of an entire school of thought. Then we've got the Gospel of Mary. The teachings of Mary Magdalene actually present her not as some sideline figure, but as a primary teacher who deeply understood the soul's journey. Yet, those teachings were systematically ignored and suppressed by early institutional authorities. They literally called her insights dangerous to the established order, completely stripping away her profound spiritual authority in favor of a much safer, standardized narrative. And the hostility gets even more extreme. The Gospel of Judas was quite literally destroyed on sight. These mystical texts were actively hunted down, burned, and aggressively declared heretical by those in power. You have to wonder, why such a ruthless campaign to erase them? Well, it's because they contained a message that completely bypassed external authority, which made everyday people incredibly hard to control. Here is the absolute kicker. All of these forbidden texts, Thomas, Mary, and Judas, said the exact same, deeply liberating thing. The core message was simply this: the kingdom is inside you. The divine is not outside of you waiting to be appeased. It is not some external institution you have to beg for grace. It's already inside you, just waiting to be remembered and unlocked. Section 1, The Buried Gnostic Secrets. So the foundation of this whole philosophy is a concept called gnosis. It comes from the Greek word for direct experiential knowledge. Gnosis completely shifts the focus away from blind faith and strict doctrines and moves it entirely toward your own direct personal experience. It isn't about just believing something you're told. It is about knowing it for yourself in a way that literally no one can ever debate or take away from you. The stakes on this journey literally couldn't be higher. Saying 70 from the Gospel of Thomas drops this massive warning. Failing to bring forth what is within you will ultimately destroy you, but bringing it forth will save you. Think about what that means in our modern context. When we suppress our true selves, when we bury our authentic voices just to fit in, that suppression breeds anxiety, depression, and resentment. The Gnostics weren't writing to entertain. They were writing to wake people up to a life-or-death psychological reality. Section 2. The kingdom is inside you. I want you to ask yourself, totally honestly, right now, where are you getting your validation? Are you seeking peace, status, and permission from your boss, your partner, or just society at large? The Gnostics believed that doing this is committing the fundamental error. It's not a sin, it's just a tragic case of mistaken identity. We suffer so intensely because we absolutely exhaust ourselves looking outside for what can only ever be found inside. Honestly, this is probably the most empowering takeaway of the whole explainer. You do not need to fix yourself or the world to find peace. Modern life, advertising, and social media are so incredibly efficient at making you feel incomplete, inadequate, or just fundamentally broken. But the Gnostics push back hard on that. They say you aren't broken, you are simply buried. You just need to clear away the cultural conditioning and uncover that divine spark that's already perfectly intact within you. Section 3, Relationships as Inner Mirrors. The Gospel of Mary gives us this fascinating psychological framework. She teaches that our cravings, ignorance, and wrath act like distorted lenses that cause us to misread other people. That means the partner or the friend who profoundly triggers you is actually just reflecting exactly where your own inner light is blocked. So instead of blaming them, the Gnostics offer an invitation to look inward. That conflict, it isn't really about the other person. It's about your own unhealed perceptions.
So, the ultimate goal isn't to find someone out there to magically fix you. It's about becoming two whole lights coming together, rather than two incomplete darknesses leaning on each other just to survive. When you finally stop expecting a relationship to complete you and fill your internal voids, you actually become free to genuinely connect. It takes all that exhausting, impossible pressure off the relationship, allowing love to be a shared journey instead of a rescue mission.
Section 4. The Alchemy of Wealth. There's a massive, stark contrast between a poverty consciousness and co-creator awareness. Poverty consciousness is that fear-based belief of scarcity. It's the feeling that wealth is handed out or withheld by external forces entirely beyond your control, making you a victim of circumstance. But the Gnostic truth is co-creator awareness, which flips the script. It says your creative agency is located completely inside of you. Your ideas, your resilience, and your disciplined attention are the actual instruments for material manifestation. To actually unlock this co-creator energy, Jesus gives this wild, counterintuitive two-word piece of advice in the Gospel of Thomas: become passersby. This teaches us that releasing our desperate, anxious grip on outcomes is what actually allows for the natural flow of genuine value and wealth. You provide your authentic service. You absolutely do the hard work, but you remain free from that suffocating attachment to the drama, the failures, and the opinions of the world. Section 5. Silencing your inner archons. The Gnostics called these oppressive forces archons, but we need to be clear, they aren't talking about literal supernatural demons here. Archons are those inherited beliefs, the limiting systemic pressures, and those highly critical inner voices that constantly tell you to be realistic, play it safe, and ultimately make you doubt your own worth. They're societal conditioning, operating primarily through fear to keep your divine spark safely locked up in mediocrity. The secret to defeating archons wasn't fighting them in some exhausting mental war. It was simply recognizing them. Try pausing right now and asking yourself this: who would I be if no one was watching? Just by engaging with that thought, you can quickly figure out if your limiting beliefs are genuinely yours or if they're just programming handed down to you by culture. You strip those archons of their power through the simple, clarifying act of naming them. Section 6. 4 Ancient Daily Practices. Knowledge that just stays in your head changes absolutely nothing. So let's look at 4 specific daily actions that bridge theory into lived reality. First, practice hesychia. This is 15 minutes of absolute morning stillness. Before the phone, before the emails, just sit in silence to return to your baseline awareness. Second is self-inquiry. Have a brief evening reflection where you ask, what actions did I take today from a place of authenticity, and what did I do just out of fear? Third, lectio divina. Instead of doom scrolling, sit with just one secret saying for an entire week. Truly absorb it. And fourth is loving recognition. Actively practice seeing that exact same divine spark hidden within everyone you meet, even the people who frustrate you. As we wrap up this explainer, let this profound warning from saying 6 of the Gospel of Thomas remind you of the ultimate necessity of radical honesty. You just cannot fake this journey. You have to stop abandoning yourself to please other people, and stop forcing yourself to do things that compromise your soul. Because at the end of the day, the wisdom recovered from the Egyptian desert reveals one singular earth-shattering truth. Your well-being isn't some reward for good behavior. It is your inherent birthright. The secret has always been you, patiently waiting, buried under all that conditioning. So I leave you with this final thought. What are you waiting for? Go and become who you already are.